Shavua Tov.
Hello,
How are
Shavua
you?
Tov. How
How are
are
you,
you?
Shabbat? Baruch Hashem. Good,
Good,
good. Nice sweater.
thank you.
Shavua Tov.
Shavua
Shavua
Tov.
Tov. Beautiful.
Bobisto, Bobisto.
Ranana.
Ah, okay.
Tov Ben Tov. Beautiful weather here.
Mm-hmm.
I'm outside. We're on Ayin Vav, right?
Yes,
Yeah.
76.
Eitzvi Abaya, 76.
Easy.
The Kulon, we're talking about when various korbanos got mixed up, shlamim with a chatas, with a bechor, right? Rishon Kohanim l'shanis bachiloso. The Kohanim can eat it any way they want. La'ochlan sluyin, they can roast it, shluchin, they can, that's like cooking it in water. No, shluchin is like making a stew. Muvushalin, cooking in water. V'laseis l'soichen tavle chulin v'tavle truma. Kohanim can eat trumas, so they can put into the dish spices, whether they're chulin, whether they're truma. They're Reb Shimon. So we said before that Reb Shimon doesn't allow kochim to be brought to the Beis Apsul. That means to reduce the period of time by which you can eat it. He says don't shecht it in the first place. If a normal you can eat a shlamim for 2 days, and now that you mix it with a korban that you can only eat for 1 day, you reduce the amount of time that you can eat it. That's called bringing kochim earlier to the Beis Apsul, right? Because after the time that you can eat it, you got to destroy it, you got to burn it, otherwise it's a noiser. But here it seems from this brisa that Reb Shimon doesn't make any restriction on how you can eat. In fact, it's very wide. Amar le'hanach l'trumas tavlin d'Rabbana. Truma midaraisa is only from like olives, wheat, grapes. Spices, truma is only midrabbana. But if it had possessed kedusha from a deraisa standpoint, like kochim, he would prevent you from using it because of this problem of bringing kochim prematurely to the Beis Apsul. Esvei, Abaya is going to be relentless here. Ein lochin truma b'kesef meiser. Kohen, who has meiser sheni money, right? He has produce that he's redeemed because he doesn't want to transport it from Tel Aviv. Here's my grandson, Kobe. He likes to participate.
Mm-hmm.
If you have a lot of produce and you live in Tel Aviv, you got to eat the Meiser Sheni in Yerushalayim. Let's say you've got a boxcar full of produce. You're a big farmer, successful farmer. So you can't bring all that produce to Yerushalayim. You don't have the means to transport it. So you can redeem it. You add a 20% surcharge. So if the produce is worth $1,000, you're poida. You transfer the kedusha of the Meister Sheni to the money, and you bring the $1,200 up to Yerushalayim. It's much easier to transport money than it is to transport produce. It's a much smaller volume. Just put it in your pocket. And then you buy food in Yerushalayim and you eat it in Yerushalayim with the Meister Sheni money. So if the coin has Meister Sheni money, you don't buy truma with it. Mipnei shemema'et b'achilasa. You reduce. Well, now truma normally can be eaten anywhere. There's no din that you have to eat truma in Yerushalayim. But that which you bought with Meiser Sheni money has the restriction of Meiser Sheni, which is it can only be eaten in Yerushalayim. So Reb Shimon does not want you to minimize the opportunity where you can eat the truma. So that seems to go, but Rab Shimon matir. Tanna Kama says you can't, but Rab Shimon says it's not a problem. So you see, Rab Shimon is not concerned about limiting the amount of time, place of achila. Oh, ishtikle. Rava had no answer. So it looks like Abaya trapped Rava in his kasha. However, Kiyosel come in Rav Yosef. When Abaya discussed this whole sugya in front of Rav Yosef, Omer Le, Rav Yosef said, Amaylo tusve meha. You know what? You could have asked a kasha on Rava from another place. It says, Ein mevashlin yerek shel shviyas b'shemen shel truma. You have vegetables that have been grown during Shemitah. You can only eat the vegetables of Shemitah until it's no longer in the field. So there's a set time we have to stop eating the yerek shel shviyas. And you cook the yerek shel shviyas with oil of truma. So according to the Tanna Kama, you may not do that. Shelo yaviu lebeis hapsul. The truma will have to be stopped eating. The geder, we have to stop eating the yerek of shviyas. And yet Rab Shimon matir. So that could have been another place to ask a kasha, says Rav Yosef, to Abaya, to Rava, regarding this issue of Rab Shimon seemed to restrict bringing kosher lebeis hapsul, and in these prices, he seems to be opposed to that. So Amalei Abaya explains to Rav Yosef, at least, why he didn't challenge Rava from where Rav Yosef wanted him to challenge him. I challenged him regarding spices. You said it's not a kasha because giving truma from spices is midrabanan. Hachanami trumas here drabanan. It's not really midoraisa. We're asking kashas to Rab Shimon regarding things that are doraisa, but yerek, the prohibition of yerek, for shvius is only rabbinic. I'm sorry, the oil it wasn't made of olive oil. It was made of some other thing that it was only truma d'rabbanan. The Mishnah should have said yerek shel truma b'shemen shel v'yis. Must be the fact that it said yerek shel shviyis b'shemen shel truma must be talked about truma d'oraisa. However, Rava could have answered that from the following: V'lavmi usvei masnisin demat Reb Shimon. For example, Reb Shimon permitted offering shlomim and ashram together, even though it might bring the shlomim, instead of eating it for 2 days, to eat it for 1 day. But Amar Li, and why I was told did Reb Shimon have this leniency? The Iarev, it was sort of b'di'evet. The animals happened to have mixed together. You didn't do it lechatchila. Achanami, the Iarev. Here also, it's a b'di'evet case. That's why he allows it. But lechatchila, to put it together, he wouldn't allow. However, Rav Yosef says you can't learn that way. Eat the Iarev ma'tamai d'rabbanan. Why would the rabbis restrict if the yerek and the shemen got together? B'di'evet, why would they usher it? Midi dehavi asham ushlami. Well, it's like when asham and shlamim got mixed. The Rabbanon don't allow you to offer it because you're going to bring the shlamim prematurely to Beis Hapsul. So here, the Rabbanon are being consistent, even though they had got mixed b'di'evet. We don't allow you to do it. The Gemara says, but there's a huge distinction between the cases, midami. Hasam isle takonta b're'iyah. When the Osham and the Shlomim Korban got mixed together, and the Rabbanon prohibit you from offering it, you don't throw it away. What do? You let it graze in the field until it gets a mum, then you redeem it, and you with the money you buy 2 new animals. So there's a takana. Ha Leslie takana. But where the truma oil got mixed with the yerek, there's no takana. So they let you do it. Rather, the case of the truma and the oil, halodami el chatichos b'chatichos. We said if the shlomim and the osham got mixed, not by the live animals, but after you had shechted them and they had pieces of meat, we said that you couldn't do it. Given to lesle takana, the oichel b'chomer shebehen. So, what do we say? You're allowed to eat it with the stringencies of the morchomer. So you can't eat it for 2 days. You can only eat it for 1 day. So, must be that the case of the truma oil with the vegetables, they weren't mixed at all. Even so, Rav Shimon allows you to cook it together. Maski Floravina, midami. The case of the truma oil with the vegetables, is it really similar to the case of the pieces of meat that are mixed together? Chaticha shebachatichos less than the klal. You have 2 pieces of meat mixed together. What are you going to do? You have to eat it with the stringencies of one of them. The Gemara says, with the vegetables, you can squeeze the oil out of the vegetable. So there's another takana. Rav Yosef Rav Yosef doesn't use that because he says practically it's not going to work. How would we squeeze it? Nischat tuva. If we squeeze a lot, till all the oil come off b'shviyas. So you're going to damage the shviyas. And you're not allowed to do that. Minat Torah. Nischot purta sof sof yarv me'aret. If you didn't squeeze it a lot, it's going to be mixed. Therefore, you don't have an option of squeezing. Eisvei. Reb Shimon Oimer. When a person is a mitzora, and then he is no longer have the lesions, he has to bring a korban to allow him to eat kodshim. So you have to count 7 days. On the 8th day, he brings korbanos. He has to bring birds, and he has to shave his body twice within the 7 days. And then he brings his korbanos on the 8th day. Now let's say he's mesupik if he had been a nazir who became tamei. That it could be that this case could be involved in that as well. But let's say we're talking about somebody who doesn't know he's a mitzvah. Reb Shimon Oimer lemachras on the 8th day, mevi ashamo velugo imo. He brings the korban asham and the log shemen, a certain amount of oil. The Oimer, and he's not sure that he was a mitzvah. So he says, im shel mitzvah, if I indeed was a mitzvah, and these korbanos are meant to be metayr me from tumas mitzvah, harezeh asham v'zelugo. So this is the korban, and this is the log I need to bring. However, let's say he's not a mitzvah. You can't bring kodshim. It's a chulin lazora. So, but it doesn't have to be chulin. Im lav asham zeh shel shalmei dava. Let it be a shlomim. Let this asham instead be a shlomim. I can donate a shlomim at any time. However, you have to shech the animal in the north, because that's where, if it isn't an asham, has to be shechted. You apply the blood to the thumb of the kohen. These are things that you have to do for a shlomim. So you basically have to cover both. You have to cover both sides, the ashram and the shlamim.
Yes.
You have to do smicha. You have to use wine libations. You have to wave it. V'necha liyom v'layla. You only can eat it for the period of time that you can eat an ashram, not a shlamim. Yet this is Rab Shimon, and Rab Shimon is not concerned that you've reduced the period of time by which you're eating the shlamim. And for the Gemara Tikune Gavri Shiny. Here, we're talking about being metaher a metzora to be able to eat kodshim. There he allows it. That means, in general, when we're not talking about fixing a person, being masakin a person, he would not allow you to bring a shlomim to Beis Apsul. Here he would, because correcting a person is that important. Fine. Hatinech Hashem. You gave me a solution to what you're going to do with the asham. You make it a shlamim, potentially. But log Michael Ememar, what he's going to do with this log shemen, if he's not a mitzvah. The Omer log ze yeledova. I'm donating it. It's a donative offering of a log shemen. So the Gemara says, V'dilma lav mitzvah. Maybe let's take the tzad that he was not a mitzvah. And a donative oil means it's a mincha. You can donate a mincha. Now, but a mincha requires kmitza. And you have to do uboy mikmitz. You'll have to do kmitza on the oil. So the Gemara says, fine, the makmitz. So he does kmitza on the oil. Says the Gemara. The dilma mitzorahu, uboy matan sheva. But maybe he's a mitzorah. And one of the things you do is you sprinkle the oil 7 times to the Kodesh Kodoshim. Walter, welcome and happy anniversary. Sounds like a wonderful Kiddush, beautiful.
Yeah, no, thank you. Okay.
We should be there.
Wait, I missed her. I'm sorry, I would have to do something.
We're on 76 Amud Bays.
I'm at base, okay.
About halfway down. We're talking about a case where a person was mesupik if it was a metzora. Normally, a metzora has to bring an asham and log shemen, but but maybe he's not a metzora. So we said, what does he do with the asham? You say maybe it's a shlomim, and you have to process the korban as if it was a shlomim. But what do you do with the log of the oil? So we say you can bring it as a donative offering like a mincha. So the Gemara says, you need to do kmitza. Fine, the mikmitz. But the Gemara says, if you do kmitza, dilam mitzaru boy matan sheva. You have to have enough oil to sprinkle 7 times toward the Kodesh Kodoshim. That's part of the purification. And if you did kmitza, you're not going to have enough oil. So the Gemara says to Yohiv, no, he had enough oil, he was able to do it. How could he do it? He has less because he did the kmitza. Demaisi porta umalile. You can bring more oil and replenish it. The snan. Chosr alo gachlo yotzok. If for some reason through evaporation or it spilled, there was less oil before he puts it in his hand, Yimalenu, he can replenish it. Break the Gemara v'haboy haktorah. Now the kmitza, what do you do with the kmitza of a mincha? You burn it on the mizbeach. But if he's not really mitzora, how are you going to take something that's not hukdash and put it on mizbeach? The Gemara seems not to have a problem. The akter lay, he burns it. So the Gemara says, Amos, when is he going to burn that little bit of oil? If he does it after he sprinkled 7 times with the Kodesh Kodoshim. So this would be habule shirayim shechasru ben kmitza laktora. It's all that remains between kmitza and burning. Vein maktirnas hakoymetzolean. You can't do it. A koydem matna sheva, if it's prior to the sprinkling, kol shemimenu leishim harei v'val taktiru. You're not allowed to burn it at an early stage if it's meant for the fire. So we have a kasha. On Rav Yehuda B'Rav Shimon ben Pasi, you know what? Masik l'shem eitzim. You put the oil as if it was a piece of wood. The mizbeach needs wood, and sometimes you can offer even wood. The Tanya, Eliezer Omer, l'reich nichochi atamale, aval atamale l'shem eitzim. You can put it on this remnant that's left in mind that it's going to be like fuel for the mizbeach. And that way you've pottered everything that you're supposed to do with the asham and the log shemen. You've processed it in a way, if you're mesupik, if you're a mitzvah, it ends up being processed, whether you're full-time mitzvah or whether you're not. Okay. So tomorrow, same thing. Tomorrow we'll do 9 o'clock at night, which for me, which will be 7 o'clock in the morning.
It looks like it's warm over there in Ranana. You're in a nice place.
72. We're in Rehov Shem Tov, where Ariella lives. Ariella is a beautiful house.
Yeah.
And it was a beautiful Shabbos. I saw Moshe Bronner yesterday at the Shtibel. It was very nice. Ranana is beautiful. Yeah.
Okay. Okay.
Enjoy tomorrow morning. Enjoy tomorrow morning, Walter.
Okay,
Thanks
bye.
everybody.